When SAO first came out, everyone and their mother talked about how great it was, and was telling anyone who would listen to watch it. Trapped in a video game, after all, is an easy sell for most people, and it had a couple strong episodes at the beginning that convinced people it'd be a great ride. By now, however, every person who has heard of the show knows exactly how shit it ended up being. Every viewer felt betrayed by this, except for me. I never watched the show. Why? Because I decided to wait until it finished airing. And for me, this included any subsequent seasons. And by about midway through season 2, everyone collectively said, "Wait a minute, this is trash." I never watched a single episode of SAO, but I watched tons of the analysis videos tearing at a new one, and I would say that by now I know pretty much everything about at least the first season without ever seeing it. So I had never seen an SAO series. Until now. GGO came out and immediately garnered the standard attention. It was, after all, an SAO series. And while they weren't good, they were always good for a laugh. But after a few episodes, people began telling me, "Oh man, it's actually good!" This is the biggest lie anyone has ever told me. Almost every problem present in the original SAO seems to be in this show, plus multiple more problems are added in because it's not supposed to be SAO but still is. Problem 1. The first 3 episodes make you think you're watching something else. The first 3 episodes do a good job of pretending that you're going to get a fun time in a video game world. One of the very first lines in the show is the main character Lynn entering a video game tournament because she has nothing better to do. Not because she needs to become Hokage or needs the prize money to pay for her little sister's plot cancer treatments, it's because she couldn't get the concert tickets she wanted. In fact, the structure of the episodes is incredibly reminiscent of a sports show. You start off mid-tournament and show the main character pulling some crazy maneuver out of their ass to beat an opponent way the fuck better than they have any right to beat, promising you some dope fights in the future, and ends with her friends watching the footage of her kicking ass and gushing about how they're so surprised that their friend was able to accomplish that. And when the second episode starts, it's all about how she got into the game in the first place for some cutesy innocent reason and ends up being an absolute badass. This is peak sports ball shonen, and a good portion of issues I have with the show is its failure to get across what it wanted to be. But at the same time, SAO is in the title, so this is all my fault to some degree. The show clearly felt like it was supposed to be about her entering the world of competitive gaming, where she gains confidence and friends as time passes, but instead we got a single tournament that stretches for way too long after she's already beaten the most obvious challenge in the game, and by then we get to the halfway point of the show where we get thrown into an absolutely retarded plotline, which introduces life or death stakes and tries to pretend that the show is Sword Art Online. Problem 2. The show forgets that it's not Sword Art Online. The show suffers an incredibly huge problem once the second squad jam starts. Pito gets revealed to be fucking insane and is going to kill herself and M if they lose the squad jam, because every show absolutely has to have huge dramatic stakes at the end for some reason, even if it doesn't fit the show. But my complaint isn't Pito's character motivation, which I think is actually a bit interesting, albeit out of place here, and the dramatic stakes by themselves aren't what kills the show. It's the fact that the writers forgot that just because it's life or death for one character doesn't mean it's life or death for everyone. The random characters in the show act at best completely delusional. It goes well beyond someone taking a video game too seriously. I would know because I take them way too seriously. One character refuses to shoot people even though it's an online game. There's 2 mooks sharing a dramatic moment about not abandoning the other, even though it is an online game. And for maximum effect, there is a character who fearfully chastises Pito for enjoying killing people, even though it is an online game about killing people. The only characters that act like actual online players are Lynn and Grenade Launcher Girl, who's maybe the only character in the series who is portrayed as actually having fun with video games. It's almost like no one in the writing room had ever touched a video game before. Problem 3. None of the writers have a goddamn clue how video games work. There's an absolute truckload wrong with GGO just from the perspective of what a video game is by today's standards. One of the very first things is in episode 2, where the main character enters the tutorial for the game and begins a training montage where the AI proceeds to bootcamp the fuck out of them to make her into a competent player. If you've ever played a video game in the past 10 years, you know that the purpose of tutorials is to make you barely functional at best and not to turn you into a good player. Normally, I would have ignored this bit of the show since it was played for humor, was kinda cute, and more importantly, this is way in the future, so maybe your tutorials would be like that. Except as the show continues, more confusing and strange decisions come out of the woodwork. The shop has a limited supply of guns for people to buy, which no video game in the world would spend time coding and modeling a dope anti-tank rifle to put in the game and then sell only 2 of them. No video game would create an entirely different game mode and have a one-time tournament where a handful of teams get to play in it once. Squad Jam would be a game mode that absolutely everyone would want to play. Why would you have it be a one-off round for most people to just watch? More importantly, how the fuck would Lynn have even gotten into the tournament? She waited until the last second to apply, and everyone in the world would have already taken up every spot. Or how about the fact that competing in this type of game with only 2 people versus 6 players in a squad is near impossible at best? This type of shit is already enough to take me out of the show, but more than just these issues of not understanding how video games work, there's something even worse. Problem 4. The rules of the game get made up or contradicted constantly. Here's a thought. Why can Lynn run at supersonic speed while no one else in the game shows any sort of superhuman or even remotely special skill? Why is the squad scanner an immortal object in the first Squad Jam even though they never mention it? How come the tutorial AI says that a bullet line appears whenever you put your finger on the trigger, but suddenly him shooting through the scope means there's no bullet line? His finger was still on the trigger, so it should form a bullet line. How come it's explicitly stated that squads can't communicate with each other, but they still communicate with each other and even team up in the second Squad Jam? Why is losing appendages a thing even though it has never been mentioned before, and when the game explicitly takes a real-worldish application of damage? Why can Pedo suddenly survive a sniper round to the fucking face and not die in an instant? And what about when the tutorial AI says that the aiming reticle will have bullets land randomly inside its zone, but a few episodes later, Pedo claims that the aiming reticle is an auto-aim function to make it easier to aim? These questions and more will be answered absolutely never. I started writing this because I was absolutely furious at the show around episode 6, and as of writing this sentence, I only finished the show 4 hours ago at most. I wanted to rant about how this is complete and irredeemable garbage, and wanted to call everyone who watches the SAO series regularly an absolute idiot for continuing to support the franchise in any way. But SAO manages to be something even more insidious and evil than simply being terrible. It's just good enough to make you hopeful that next time they'll get it right. GGO manages to show some flashes of quality, and not just decent. There's a couple moments of genuine cleverness, or some ideas in it that I really liked that just fell flat because they didn't spend enough time polishing the script. I've seen plenty of shows that were okay at best, and though enjoyable to watch, you knew there was no hope for them to be any better than what they were. But GGO has a ton of potential in it. I know that despite my intense anger at the show, if they were to announce a second season, I'd be tempted to watch it and see if maybe this time they got it right. I won't, because I still have dignity, but I would still be curious about it. And in the end, if something manages to fill you with an emotion of that level, even if that emotion is blind, seething rage, then there's something to it that your mind can't let go of, and that's usually a good thing for any story. Thanks for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe down at the bottom, as is per usual with a YouTube channel. I don't know exactly what I will be doing with this YouTube channel yet, but I am fairly certain I will be making more videos, so feel free to keep an eye out for me.